Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Jason, and this is our Creation Homestead. I want to do a video today about fall gardening, okay? Do an intro to fall gardening for beginners, just because fall gardening is one of these things that's should be becoming more popular. I think it is becoming more popular. People are starting to understand that, hey, I can grow food even into the cooler months. After my garden's done, after my tomatoes are done, and all the normal summertime gardening things are over, hey, I can still be growing food. And that to me is a wonderful thing. It's an amazing idea that has been given to us, that has been created for us, and so I want to take part in that. And so there's all kinds of reasons to be taking part in fall gardening. First of all, it's easier. Fall gardening is just simply easier. There's not as much weed pressure. There's not as much bug pressure. There's not as many things that can really affect in a negative way what you're growing, except for the frost. Okay, and so it's a really good time to plant. Maybe you can't grow tomatoes and corn and beans and peppers and all those and squashes and all those things, but you can still grow a lot of good food. I think it's important to do fall gardening for several reasons. First of all, you just don't want to waste your space. And you've taken time to till your ground or build raised beds, things of that nature, or fill containers, you know. But you have all this stuff there. Why do you want to waste it? If you can still be growing food, hey, keep growing food. You've already invested time and money, effort, energy, all that stuff into building your beds and doing all this stuff. So you might as well use them as long as you can into the season. And so don't waste your time, don't waste your space, don't waste your investment in what you've done. And because of that, there's a couple things you may want to pay attention to before you get into that, which is like your first frost date and your days to maturity of what you're planting. Like, you don't want to come in here and plant something in September that's going to take 60 days to mature when you're in zone 6 like we are, because our first frost date might be, you know, middle of October. And just because it's a frost date doesn't mean that whatever you plant is going to die. That's not necessarily true, because things you plant in fall garden can handle frost. But it will mean that it's going to slow down. Like if you got 60 days on some bush beans, you don't really want to plant them September 1st unless your frost date is going to be until like November, right? So if you live in the more southern climates, maybe you can do something of that nature. But you've also got to remember that when you plant in the fall, days are getting shorter. So if days are getting shorter, then there's less sunlight, there's less photosynthesis, which is what makes all the green stuff grow. So those are things you always have to remember. So your frost date, your days of maturity, what you're planting. So one of the things to grow besides lettuce, I mean, we have lettuce here. We're going to plant more lettuce. This is actually a lettuce that does well in the heat. We're going to plant more lettuce, but you can grow lettuce, spinach, you know, mustard greens, Swiss chard, which we have some Swiss chard over here that's done really well. See, and this Swiss chard, while it's already grown and it's mature, it will last as long as we want it to. I mean, up through freezes and frost. You know, it's very hardy. It can take that kind of stuff. Some other things that are really good to grow right now are brassicas. Okay, brassica family includes cabbages, kale, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, things like that. Now, those are really good to grow in the fall. One thing is they can handle the frost, they can handle that, and really if they get frosted on, their flavor gets a little better. Okay, but you do still have to deal with cabbage moths. Okay, the cabbage moths are these little white little moth butterfly looking things. Okay, they fly around and they lay their eggs on cabbage plants. Okay, kale, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, things like that, and they get the little green worms on the plant and they just devour your plant. Okay, so those things you do still have a little insect pressure on. Okay, we battle those things like mad, and because of that, we have some other things that we do to help take care of those things, which I'll talk about soon. You can also grow root crops. Root crops like beets, radishes are really quick. You can get radish varieties that are mature in like 28 days. So radishes are really good. You can do turnips, parsnips, which is a more difficult thing to grow. They take so long, but parsnips can be a good thing to grow because they like to get frosted on. Actually, they need to get frosted on, so their tops, as their tops get frosted on, then it makes the root itself sweeter. Same with carrots. Okay, we got some carrots planted here, and if you can see right here, we got some carrots they're just now sprouting. Okay, we got a video on planting these if you need to see it. If you want to see it, there's some right there. And we can link that video here around my head somewhere, and maybe also in the description, okay? But, so carrots are good. And also, peas are very good. Peas like this, these are just little shell peas, English peas, green peas, okay? Those are really good to grow in cool weather. They don't like heat at all. Again, they're a little tricky. You gotta make sure you get the right varieties. You gotta make sure that you got enough days to maturity, that they're in sunlight, things of that nature, because they're just tricky. Like here in Southwest Ohio, we can go in the spring, we can go from early spring to midsummer like that, and here in the fall we can go from midsummer to late fall like that. Right? So it's really, they can be a little tricky. They're not hard to grow necessarily. I mean, these germinate here and we're in the heat still, but we're watering the heck out of them, trying to make sure that they're growing. And when it cools off, I think they'll grow really fast, but they also need a good amount of sunlight. You know, if you have sections of your yard where you're planting in that, you know, the sun's going to drop, it's getting lower now, right? So the angle changes in your yard some. So if you have some sections in your yard that goes from sun to shade, maybe you don't plant in those spots as much. Maybe you can plant greens there because they'll still do fine, but maybe the things that might need more sun, more direct sunlight, pay attention to where the angle of the sun is right now, because it does affect things. See, peas need a lot of sunlight to grow well and grow quickly. Like that variety there says it matures in 55 to 65 days. So I planted it in enough time. Is it going to make it in the sunlight? That's to be determined, but we gave it a good shot. So those things, you always got to remember, like the angle of the sun. You know, if you're planting in the shade, you can plant some greens there especially. Make sure you got enough sunlight. If you are reusing dirt, okay, whether it be garden space in the ground, dirt inside of a raised bed like this right here, we had beans in this, okay. Now we're going to use it for fall gardening and into the winter, but so these beans are out. We had to break up the dirt, okay, make sure all the roots are broke up, and then refertilize it. That way there's energy being given to what you're trying to grow to help it grow quickly and just better in general, get a better harvest that way. And then finally, we do have one thing which is a big help for us, something we rely heavily on for fall gardening, and it's the use of row covers. This little grow tunnel here. There's all kinds of things you can buy to help extend your season, and also to keep insects off of your things you're growing, like the cabbages, like I was talking about. This will help keep cabbage moths off your brassicas. It's a grow tunnel. Okay, it extends out. You can buy these several different places. We do have a video that we did last year on using row covers and grow tunnels that we will link as well. These things are exceptional. It helped us grow carrots all winter, grow lettuce all winter, and just keeps the weather from being too harsh on your plants. Obviously, if you're in a deep, hard freeze, it's not going to do you a whole lot of good. But in light frost to a heavy frost, even to a light freeze, these can really extend your growing season. Okay, like here in Southwest Ohio, our first frost might be middle of October, but we can go well into November without having too much of a freeze. So that being said, these really do a lot of good for us, and it keeps the cabbage moths off of our kale. So that's a big deal as well. So those things are a great use. Like these grow tunnels here that I just showed, they actually have these prongs that go right into the dirt, and the fabric is woven around them. They can cinch down the sides. They're great, and you can buy them in different sizes. I think those are 10 feet long, and so that's a wonderful tool to use to help grow food even throughout the winter. So there's a quick beginner's guide to fall gardening. So if you want to do some fall gardening, now's the kind of time to get it done. You got to start planting now. Here it is, late August. You still have time to plant, do some things, but pay attention to these things I talked about, whether it be your frost date, days of maturity, where the sun's at, what do you want to grow. It's easy growing though, so you should really get in on it. Don't waste your space. Enjoy God's creation, and get some good food in your backyard, and be less dependent on the grocery stores, right? Okay, so hey, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and keep coming back here to get more fall gardening tips, how to use things to grow, and how to keep growing even into the winter, even in your backyard. All right, my name is Jason. This has been our Creation Homestead. I love you guys. God bless you, and goodbye.